Right, I've taken out all the old bronze bushes from the countershaft housing on this ML7 with my tool that I showed you in the first video. There's some serious wear on the bores, they're very oversized, and there's some deep scratches and gouges in one or two of them. I can only think that this has been caused by some shoddy maintenance in the past, in the lathe history. Maybe from drifting them in, or maybe they didn't deburr the counter shaft before withdrawing it. It's very important before you take the lathe down to slide the pulley bill to one side and deburr all around the flats where the grub screws go, both here and where the large one goes on the end, before you withdraw it. Also, there's less pressure to get it out and it puts less strain on the swing head. The spindle is fairly worn where the bearings go, probably 5 or 6 thou undersize. I'm very pleased because when I measured this diameter of the spindle, it's exactly 3/4 of an inch. So I went online and bought this nice piece of precision ground silver steel, 13 inches long, ground to very tight tolerance, and it was under £20 post free. So I'm going to make a new counter shaft at a later date, and I hope to show a video about that later. I'll have to put the old spindle back in when I've reassembled. This is because I'll have to make the shaft on this lathe. I would do it on my Chinese mini lathe, which has been fully upgraded and is fully capable of doing the milling on the shaft, but I haven't got a vertical milling slide for that one, so I'll have to do it on this one. I've thoroughly cleaned the bores on the counter shaft housings, deburred around the corners of the bores, and I've also checked that there's a good flow of oil down through the button oilers. I mentioned in part 1 that the new Oilite bronze bushes that I bought are 2 to 3 thou oversize, and I made a mandrel which I showed you in that video for putting them in my other lathe to polish the diameter down, or the mandrel can go in a pillar drill to do the same job. I also mentioned in that video that you polish the bores. Now this is incorrect. Someone told me that if you polish the bores on Oilite bushes, it closes the pores in the bronze and the bearing will lose their self-lubricating properties. So don't touch the bores. So I prepared this bush earlier, polished down the diameter. The bores are perfect, have been left untouched. When I fitted this one into the housing, when it was pushed home, on this end here it became tight so that the spindle would not go through. So what you do then, you withdraw the bush again, that's what I did, put it on the mandrel, and I polished 1/1000th of an inch off the diameter of the front. When I put it back in again, pushed it home, it was the perfect size and the spindle went through. So I'm going to reinsert this bronze bush that I've prepared. When it pushes home, it'll be a nice tight fit in the housing. You use the aluminium part of the tool that I showed in part 1. That slides into the bore of the bush, and then you use the disc or the bung off of the pipe on the other end of the housing, pass the threading through, it's got a nut on this side, then you put the other nut on, and draw the new bearing into the housing. Doing it this way also draws it in nice and square. When the aluminium part of the tool hits the end face of the housing, it will stop, causing the bronze bush to be flush with the end face of the housing, which is the correct position. There we go. So the housing's flush with the end face, and it's important now to use your silver steel or your spindle and check that the spindle goes through. I'm very pleased with that fit. Now you follow the same procedure with all the rest of the bearings, making sure that when you put each one in, you check your spindle goes through. If you went ahead and pushed all the bearings in without doing this, you'll find they'll all go tight, or most of them will go tight. You won't be able to get your spindle through, and you'll have to take out the whole lot again and start again and do this procedure that I've shown you. Now it doesn't matter how many times you have to take the bush out to make adjustments. If you use the tool that I've shown you, you won't do any damage to the housing, and you won't do any damage to the bronze bush. I've pulled these out and put them back in probably 5 or 6 times to prepare this video. And each time I've reinserted them, they've been the perfect fit. All you have to concentrate on is getting the external diameter right, so that you don't pinch the bores. I think that it's probably about 2 thou clearance. This is obviously to let the oil go round. If you had them any tighter than that, the oil probably wouldn't get through the bearing. So I'm going to put the next bronze bush into the back of this housing on this side. Use the same tool again. The aluminium one fits into the bush. Disc or the bung on the front face, and do up. wind it in, and that will draw the next bush in nice and squarely. I bet there's a lot of lathes around the country where people have thought they could just drift these bushes in, and then at the end of it realising that they can't get their spindle through, and probably thinking they've bought the wrong size bushes even. So there we have it. The aluminium part has hit the back face. Now the second bush is flush with the back face. This leaves the correct gap in the middle, almost like an O-ring or oil ring groove, for the oil to go down through. You should be able to see that there. I saw an example recently on a swing head where someone had pushed the bushes in, obviously not getting them flush with the end face, so the gap in the middle was closed, and that would obviously block the oil going down through the oiler. Now again, at this point you test your spindle that it goes through the other bush. Yeah, very good. I'm pleased with that as well. Then you obviously follow the same procedure on the other housing on the swing arm until all the bushes are in. Now on these old ML7s, it's important when you're fitting the bushes into the other side of the housing on the swing head to insert the spindle or silver steel from this side to check the fitting. And as you can see, that one's a perfect fit there again. Now the reason for this is that if you insert the silver steel or spindle from this side, when you get to the other side it won't go through. It gives the appearance, almost the appearance, that the shaft is bent, but it is not. What it is, over the years, the stresses and strains on the swing head has caused this part of the swing head to twist slightly. When you push the spindle in, you'll see there's a gap at the bottom of the bush and nothing at the top. Now, the lathe has probably run like that for many years, and it'll run like that for many years to come. You won't even notice it once you've reassembled it. So what you do on reassembly, when you get to this stage and you're pushing your spindle through, give the thing a little twist and work it through. Now, like I say, that gives the appearance that the bushes are tight, but when you find you've got it all assembled, you've got your pulleys on and your belts or whatever, you'll find that the lathe runs perfectly and that you won't even notice that. Also, I'd like to mention that these swing heads are only made of cast aluminium. Myford do not make this part anymore. they're getting rarer and rarer to find. If you tried to twist the housing back, you'd have to try and overbend it, obviously. There is a danger of this part snapping, and you don't want to have a lathe that doesn't work. So it's better to leave that well alone and put it all back together, and like I say, it will run perfectly. If you had a really badly damaged swing head, or it was very badly twisted out of alignment, and you had the chance of buying another swing head online, go ahead and buy one. I bought one a while back, and because it's good to have a nice spare like this. Now, over the years they've changed various dimensions slightly. This one's off of an ML7, but on this one you'll find that the lugs where the guard slides up the centre are smaller than the ones on this lathe here. Now don't worry about that. If you have the chance of buying the swing head, I'd go ahead and buy it. And the difference between the diameter of the lug on this lathe to this one is about 0.150 thou. So it's a good size, and all you have to do is make up a brass ring to the correct diameter and slide it on there. You could put a grub screw maybe in, or you could fit it on with some Loctite, and then it'll be the perfect fit for your existing guard. Now another thing, one thing I was contemplating when I began this job on the swing head, I was going to take the button oilers out and make an adapter with a 1/8 BSP female thread, and put this type of oiler on the swing head housings. I've seen them on other people's lathes, but I've gone against that idea now. I was looking online on the Myford site on the history of the lathe. I think it was on there, and they put these button oilers in these housing for a specific purpose. Now what that is when your spindle's in there, you've got a reasonably tight tolerance on it, and probably 2 thou clearance for the oil to go through there. You need to use an oil gun with pressure, or an oil can with pressure, to push the oil down through the button oilers, and this effectively pushes the old oil out from the bearing and puts new oil in. So like I said, I've gone against the idea of the drip feed oiler, because I don't think they would be as effective, and also when you got it all assembled, you start your lathe, it's just easier to give a good shot of oil before you start the lathe through, then you know that there's good clean oil in the bearing. So that's about it for this job. So when you come to do the job, buy your Oilite bushes first, make all your tools to suit the new bush. When you do the job, like I say, you'll find it's a nice job to do, a nice easy job, and you'll feel very pleased that you've done it without any damage to the lathe, and without any damage to the bushes. I have got some upgrades to show you on the Chinese lathe that I've got. Like I said, I've done all the modifications on it, and put like tapered bearings in. I've made the tool for pulling all the bearings out and putting the new tapered roller bearings in, and also I've done a lot of work on it to make it much more rigid, and it's a lathe that I really like having. Obviously smaller than the ML7. A small lathe is very valuable to have, and it's great having both lathes. So hopefully on some future videos I'll show you the upgrades I've made and some easier ways of doing the upgrades I've seen.